welcome back. And we're looking at the Independent National Electoral Commission that on Wednesday announced a date for general elections in the country for the next 36 or 39 years.
On the march again.
On the march again. So that's from 2019 to 2055.
I was wondering, why do we need, at least if we do up to the next 10 years, I'll understand.
No, I think it's a good plan. I mean, this is the first time that anybody will come out and say, okay, well, this is a forward-thinking...
For 36 years.
This is a forward-thinking INEC. So let's see. So the chairman of the commission, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu, made this known in Abuja at a consultative meeting with leaders of political parties. Elections from 2019 to 2055 will hold on 2 days respectively, as opposed to the proposal of the National Assembly, which said that the elections will hold in 3 days. As in the sequence, National Assembly, day 1, governorship and state houses assembly, day 2, and presidential, day 3. But the plan by INEC is
the current plan.
Is a 2-day plan that came out before the National Assembly. Well, maybe because, anyway, let's not go there. But to help us understand what's going on here, we have Chidi Nwafo, who is the director of ICT in the INEC, and Osaze Oyi, director of voter education in INEC. They join us from our Abuja studio. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, sir, man.
Okay, let's start with you, Mr. Uyi, because the public will really want to understand how you decided to come by that
36-year plan.
36-year plan for the elections.
Yeah, thank you very much. A lot of the media have focused on that, on the 36-year plan. Well, it's not actually a plan. I think the chairman was talking about a principle that, look, we want certainty of dates in our elections. And last year, actually this was announced last year, said, look, we'll now, on the election year, like 2019, have the first election on the third Saturday of the year, and the other election 2 weeks following. So having that principle established, which is in accordance with international best practices, in Ghana, I think it's December 7th or so, the date is certain. In the US, you know when it's going to be. Most countries, or quite a number of countries, have certainty of date. That operate the presidential system, unlike the parliamentary system where parliamentary elections can be called at any time. In the presidential system, most countries have certainty of date. Kenya has the same thing. Even in Africa, a lot of them do. So basically, we said, look, this is the principle, and if this is the principle, then you can extrapolate and fix the dates, if not more than 36 years. If you get to kind of a 50, 55 years time, you can actually fix the time that the elections will hold in 2035 if you choose. So basically, it is that principle. It provides for certainty. Recall that when we did governorship election in Edo, I think it was 2 years ago, there's a problem that there's supposed to be a conflict with WAEC saying that they had exams on a date fixed for the election. People who had social events, marriages, burials, and stuff like that, we want everybody, stakeholders have to plan. Nigerian citizens have to plan. If now you know there's certainty on the third Saturday of the election year, elections will hold, you arrange yourselves in such a way that the elections will not be as disruptive to your plans as they should be. INEC knows and will plan towards that. Everybody plans towards that. So that basically was the principle behind it. So it's a principle, not necessarily the dates as such, but you can compute the thing from 36 years to the 40th year to the 44th year, just like that, once you know the principle.
It's good that now, where at least the citizenry has a basis to plan or have a platform where they can say, okay, this is what's going to happen. And this is good. It's quite commendable. Some people have said that in some quarters. But then one begins to wonder. The National Assembly just came up with a plan. And we all know that as we approach the next election, the National Assembly somewhat tinkers with the Electoral Act. So how would that play out with this new idea that INEC has come up with? Or is it that it's not cast in stone yet?
Well, in a sense, we're operating with the existing legal regime. That is the extant law. We cannot operate with any other law. What the National Assembly has passed has not become law. Until the president gives his assent, it does not become law. The president can withhold his assent, in which case it's not law, except, of course, when it's sent back to the National Assembly, in its own wisdom, have to override the presidential veto, which they can do if they muster the threshold established by the Constitution, which is about 2/3 of the members of the two chambers. If they do that, then we'll now have to sit down, look at what the law is. But for now, in a sense, it's cast in stone. But sometimes, I guess you can chip stones, or you can melt stone if the heat is strong enough. I guess so. But if the law changes, then we'll go back and use the same principle to compute when the dates are.
But you did not, once again, you did not talk about that part where you know that every year or every election, approaching every election year, they tend to tinker with the Electoral Act. Let's forget what they've done for now until that is signed or not signed. But you know that they always tend to, I mean, in 2010, the Electoral Act was somewhat amended for the 2011 elections. In 2015, there was a little bit of tinkering as well. Don't you think that might also affect this idea?
Well, we don't plan on the basis of things that might happen or might not happen. That will now be amount to planning with speculation in mind. So we don't speculate. We plan with what we have. It's quite possible, and if you look at the things, I think the National Assembly was quick to point out that, look, if there is need, we'll amend the law. But if there's no need, then there might not be. If you have a good law now, there just might not be any need to do any fundamental changes to the law. So, but if I can't speculate, basically, we don't deal in speculation. We deal with what is. And the plan, the timetable deals with what the extant law is. Yes, the Constitution is in the process of reform presently. Yes, the Electoral Act is also in process of reform, but we have to wait to see. It's still inchoate until those reforms are done, until the Constitution is amended, the Electoral Act is amended. If it's amended and affects the timetable, then we'll go back to the drawing board and adjust according to suit the law.
Okay, Mr. Nwafor, let's talk about voter registration and issues around it. I heard the INEC chairman talking yesterday about removing 299 aliens from the voter registers. So tell us more what INEC is doing in terms of ensuring that more people get, registered easily. Yes, because there are issues around, registration and, of course, the collection of the PVC.
Okay. Thank you so much for that question. Let me take it from this way. Before this period, what we normally do is whenever there is an election coming up, we go out and do registration periodically, which means we take about a week or 2 weeks at times to do registration. But what has happened now is that the Commission has now said, okay, let's do it continuously. For us to do it continuously, we have to weigh a lot of things, infrastructure, fund, and a lot of things. And we came up with, if we must do this continuously, we have to start at local government. We did start at local government. We saw how it was going, and we began what we call extending it to some places based on decisions between the state. And therefore, we extended the centers from no more 774 to 144, 1,000 plus. So we have brought the system closer. But we know as election gets closer, we will also make the machines closer to the people. On the issue of the PVC, I want to say this. We printed the whole cards before 2015 election. Not less than 7 to 8 million did not collect their, not less than 7 to 8 million did not collect their card. And we have constantly been saying, come and pick your card. So what we did was, at any place we have our center for registration, we also have a center there, some people there distributing the PVC. And so, up till now, the collection has not been impressive as we may have wanted. But we do hope that before the election comes, more people will collect their PVC. If they do not, the Commission may take decision about those PVC. On aliens, yes, the immigration people have done us a favor, but by getting some people, some cards, which they suspect are not Nigerians, and they brought it, and we're working with them so that once we get this, we remove them from the register. That was what the chairman was alluding to when he said that. So continuously in every register is dynamic. Continuously we'll keep on any issue seen, we'll look at it and remove it after due diligence is followed. So I want to assure Nigerians that voter registration is on course. more machines will come in, more centers will be open as we get closer for the election. Thank you so much.
What about the issues that are encountered when they go to these registration centers? I mean, you get to some registration centers, the personnel there are not enough. I'll give you an example. If you look at an axis between Ajah, I mean, from Chevron there about up from in that axis, Etiosa axis of Lagos, there's just about one registration center there, unless it's been increased. But the people who've gone there, some of the people who've spoken to that have gone there, they found out that there's only one system attending to thousands of people. How do you expect these people to be encouraged to come back?
Okay. I will take it this way. Before now, we'll be using some of the machines we acquired 2010. And thank God we're getting more machines. And so some of these machines are the ones, the old machines are the ones that is delaying. Where when people come, they find out that it takes time before you finish registration. Now, since we started per local government, you can understand Lagos with the number of local government they have. However, Lagos State, because of the population, we know what was happening. During the distribution to get more machines to the state, Lagos has the highest. In short, the lowest, the second to Lagos is like Lagos double of it. But we do know, before now, the crowd was so much. Immediately we brought in about those 30 machines to selected places where we see the crowd, it reduced. So on that issue, on that Ajah own, we'll take note of that and try as much as possible to see how we do reallocation of resources, reallocation of machines to make sure it captures that. But I want to give a promise. Very soon more machines are going to come and it will solve some of these problems.